The body is seen as a vehicle. The body is a vehicle toward higher states. So now I'll ask you the same question I asked you before. What does asana have to do with the idea of union? Tell me.
You're uniting your body, the physical, with the mental and your mind, and keeping it in sync.
Okay. I am uniting my body and my mind, and breath is, of course, that unifier. That's one aspect of it. There are actually lots of levels of uniting and cultivating union here. Go ahead.
Like releasing all the enemies that surround yourself.
Okay.
And like.
Yeah, go on. Like what enemies?
Like greed and all this stuff that like.
How so? How is it that you're doing that when you're in triangle pose and you're holding a pose and you're settling into it and you're looking at your shoulders and you're breathing and you're watching and you're opening and you're...
Because instead of concentrating on like your material things and what you want, you're concentrating on what you're doing, like in the pose. So.
Okay. I like that you use the word concentration. It fosters concentration. We're going to talk about concentration in a few minutes. I like that you looked at that. Let's build on that. Because remember, every time you put it into your own words, it becomes accessible knowledge. What does this have to do with union? These physical poses. You're going to understand so much more about these physical poses than, the people that walk around with their yoga mats. Abbott Kinney. Huh? Like every street in LA, right? What does it have to do with the union? Yes, it fosters concentration. That's been said, and I like that it's been said. So let's put that on the back burner just for a minute. So it's a stepping stone. It prepares the body for meditation. And of course, the culmination of meditation is a mind that is united with the divine. Yes, but are the poses themselves an active part of this unification process, liberation process, freedom process? You're using your body to transform your mind because your body is more tangible, more accessible. The mind is hard to get at. At the same time that you're using your body and your breath, you're becoming more balanced. You're unifying these opposite forces. You're pushing, but you're also pulling. You're balancing. In every pose, you're dealing with the balance of the entire structure of your body. You're working through obstacles. You want to jump out of that pose because you feel for a moment unstable, or because you're restless. You're not used to staying still that long. Or it's just, oh, my knee, my back, this, that, the other. You're working through that restlessness. You're working through the boredom. You're also working through your tendency to judge yourself based on what others are doing. It's not a competitive sport. So someone else might be, with their legs over their heads, and you can't do that. But do you know what? You don't know all aspects of that person's life and where they are on their path. From what position are you judging? What folly? Right? You better just work on yourself. So you're resisting the temptation to judge yourself and others. You're conquering all of this, the restlessness within and without. Working through obstacles. But unlike academics, you might say, well, I'm working through obstacles every time I solve a logic problem or some sort of math problem. Well, yes, but at the same time, you're generating inner strength. At the same time, you're dealing with those habitual responses to situations. Working through your algebraic puzzle doesn't do that for you. At that very moment, you're leaving yourself. You're not answering the little toddler inside yourself that is saying, I want ice cream. You're not nurturing it. I want to go outside, I'm hot. Right? You're not nurturing it. So you're becoming less separate every time you stop listening to the little crying baby inside, right? So you stop listening. You stop being a slave to that separate self. You start being more connected with.
When are you feeling that you're more separate
separate, if there is that little Calvin strategy?
Yeah, you're more separate because you haven't exercised that muscle that needs to be exercised every time you say no. But every time you exercise that muscle of saying no, you become less a slave to it and less separate. Does it make sense if I put it that way?
It's like taking on the being of something else.
And do you know how? Because every time I stop competing and judging and sizing up myself and others, I'm more able to be compassionate. My heart, to put it in yogic terms, my heart chakra becomes more expansive. My heart is bigger. So instead of competing, every time I compete, I'm separate than you. I'm going to win. But every time I drop that, I instead enter into a compassionate state where I can now try to imagine what it is you're feeling, whether you're a cat or a possum or a butterfly or another human being. I now have a greater capacity for compassion because I'm not separate from you in a state of competition. Let's go to step 4. Step 4 is not as involved as the others. Oh, yay, good. All right? Pranayama, but it's just as important. Pranayama. Okay, who remembers the word I just used a few minutes ago for breath, life force, energy? Prana. Guess what? Look, prana. Prana. Pranayama. So you know it has to do with breath, which is the same thing as life force, energy. Pranayama, breath control. What's respiration in English? To breathe. Look at the word root in respiration. Like spirit. Spirit. So to breathe, respiration, has to do with life itself. The spirit inside of you. That life force inside of you. Even in English, we recognize the connection between breath and life. Pranayama, breath control. If you've taken a yoga class just for fun, the teacher probably told you to do ujjayi breathing, which is audible. Deep, audible, inhaling and exhaling, and you can hear the whole room breathing out loud. Just deep, loud breathing, and you probably, wondered, why? Why do I have to do that? It might feel awkward or embarrassing at first if you're not used to it. But once you understand how breathing affects your life and your emotional state, then you start to understand. It's really interesting because, today, surgeons and scientists and doctors, and when I say today, I mean, the past century or few centuries, they've come to understand what the yogis have been working with for thousands of years. I have to say it. Like now we have a pretty good understanding of what doctors call the autonomic nervous system. You know what the autonomic nervous system is? It's our nervous system, but it comes in 2 branches, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And it might sound like foreign terms to you, but you do know something about it, even if you don't think you know something about it. When you talk about adrenaline, or what psychiatrists call the fight or flight response, which is driven by adrenaline, guess what they're talking about? The sympathetic nervous system. It's the one that is impulsive and that gets spinning so easily and out of control. It's reactive. It can be violent. It's temperamental. But the other branch, the parasympathetic nervous system, is that part of the whole system that acts as the brakes. It puts the brakes on the system. It says, whoa, Nellie, slow down. Hang on. Let's think about it.